Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Uncaged delivers an intense and heart-pounding experience that plunges viewers into a world of primal fear, survival, and raw human instinct. This movie redefines the creature horror genre, merging suspense, action, and emotion into a story that feels both terrifyingly real and deeply psychological. From its very first scene, it grips the audience with an atmosphere of unease that only grows heavier as the story unfolds. The concept of being hunted, not just by a beast but by one's own fears, becomes the driving force of the film, pushing its characters to their absolute limits. The story begins with a peaceful setting that quickly turns into chaos. Deep. In a remote wilderness, an isolated community finds itself at the mercy of a monstrous predator. The tranquility of nature becomes the stage for unspeakable horror as strange killings begin to occur. At first, the clues are subtle claw marks on trees, missing livestock, terrified whispers in the dark, but soon the truth becomes undeniable. Something has been unleashed, something that no one can control. As panic spreads, the once peaceful town transforms into a war zone of fear, survival, and desperation. At the center of the story is a group of people whose lives intertwine under extreme circumstances. Each character represents a different response to fear, courage, denial, greed, and guilt. The protagonist, a wildlife researcher who has spent her life studying animal behavior, becomes the film's emotional core. Her knowledge of predators gives her insight into the creature's mind, but also makes her realize that this is no ordinary beast. The movie explores her internal struggle as she's forced to confront not only the monster outside, but the personal demons that haunt her. Her journey is as much about survival as it is about redemption. The creature itself, the Uncaged force, is both terrifying and fascinating. It's not just an animal, but a reflection of humanity's darkest impulses, a physical manifestation of what happens when nature is pushed beyond its limits. The design of the creature blends realism and nightmare, giving it a presence that feels alive and unpredictable. Every time it appears, the tension spikes, and the sound design amplifies the terror, the growl echoing in the woods, the crunch of footsteps in the darkness, the sharp intake of breath before the inevitable attack. The creature is not always seen in full, which makes it even more frightening. Its power lies in the unseen, in the imagination of the viewer, where horror thrives the most. The cinematography is stunning, capturing the contrast between the natural beauty of the wild and the horror that lurks within it. Wide shots of mist-covered forests and moonlit rivers are juxtaposed with claustrophobic close-ups of terrified faces and violent encounters. The use of natural light and shadow enhances the sense of realism, making the horror feel grounded and immediate. The camera never shies away from the violence, yet it also doesn't exploit it. Instead, the focus remains on the emotional weight of survival, the fear, the pain, and the desperate hope that drives people to fight when there's no escape. The pacing of the movie is masterful, starting slow to build tension and gradually escalating into relentless chaos. The first act establishes the mystery, letting the audience feel the isolation and vulnerability of the setting. The second act erupts with intense sequences of survival and confrontation where no one is safe. The third act delivers pure adrenaline, a battle between man and beast that is both physical and psychological. The transitions between quiet suspense and explosive action keep the viewer constantly on edge. Just when it seems like the characters have found safety, the danger returns with greater force. The themes of Uncaged go far beyond traditional monster horror. The story examines the fragile balance between humanity and nature, suggesting that the true monster may be the result of human interference. The film subtly touches on environmental destruction, greed, and moral decay, showing how people's actions can awaken forces beyond their control. It's a reflection on how humans often see themselves as rulers of nature, only to be reminded of their vulnerability when nature strikes back. The title itself, Uncaged, becomes symbolic. not just of the creature but of humanity's suppressed instincts that emerge under extreme circumstances. Emotionally, the movie hits hard. The fear feels real because it's rooted in loss, guilt, and the will to survive. As the characters are forced to face their worst nightmares, the line between predator and prey begins to blur. The protagonist's arc is especially powerful. She begins as a scientist, seeking to understand, but by the end, she becomes a survivor fighting to protect what remains. Her transformation mirrors the film's central message that survival often requires embracing the very instincts we try to suppress. The supporting characters each bring their own emotional depth and moral conflicts. Some are driven by self-preservation, others by heroism or desperation. As the situation grows worse, alliances crumble and true personalities emerge. The film's writing ensures that even the smallest characters feel real, with motivations and fears that make their fates impactful. When they die, and many do, it never feels meaningless. Each death carries emotional weight, a reminder of how fragile life becomes when trapped in an environment ruled by fear. Sound design plays a huge role in amplifying the terror. Every rustle of leaves, distant howl, or snapping branch keeps the audience guessing whether it's the wind or something far worse. The silence is just as powerful as the noise, creating unbearable tension in moments when the characters are holding their breath, hiding, waiting for the next strike. The creature's roars are layered and guttural, almost human at times, as if it's mocking those who fear it. This subtle use of sound blurs the line between beast and man, reinforcing the idea that the two are not so different after all. The visual effects and practical makeup work blend seamlessly to make every attack scene shockingly realistic. Blood splatters, wounds, and transformations are executed with precision, keeping the horror grounded and visceral. Unlike many modern horror films that rely on flashy effects, Uncaged embraces a gritty, physical style that feels old-school yet cinematic. The creature design stands out as one of the most memorable aspects of the movie, terrifyingly lifelike, detailed, and expressive. It's a monster that feels ancient, intelligent, and hungry in a way that's disturbingly believable. The direction ensures that every moment of terror serves a purpose. The scares are earned, not cheap. They come from atmosphere, anticipation, and emotion rather than sudden shocks. The film relies heavily on mood, on the uneasy feeling that something is always watching, always waiting. This approach gives Uncaged a maturity that sets it apart from typical creature features. It's horror with meaning, terror with heart. As the movie builds toward its climax, the action becomes more intense and emotionally charged. The final confrontation between the protagonist and the creature is both thrilling and tragic. It's not just a fight for survival, but a test of humanity. The scene is filled with tension and desperation, as she must face not only the monster before her, but the realization of what humanity's actions have unleashed. The moment she decides to fight back, using both intellect and instinct, becomes a defining point for the entire film. It's brutal, haunting, and strangely beautiful, a reflection of the film's central theme that survival and sacrifice often go hand in hand. The ending leaves a lasting impression. It doesn't offer easy answers or neat resolutions. Instead, it closes with a haunting ambiguity that lingers long after the credits roll. The world feels changed, scarred by what has happened. The creature may be gone, or perhaps it never truly can be, a reminder that nature's fury can never be fully contained. The protagonist walks away, not victorious, but transformed, carrying both trauma and understanding. It's an ending that speaks to the duality of fear and hope, destruction and renewal. Visually, the final moments are breathtaking. The sunrise over the ravaged landscape serves as both an image of peace and a warning. The quiet after the storm feels uneasy, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. The use of light and shadow, fire and mist, creates a symbolic image of rebirth through destruction. It's a powerful conclusion to a story that never lets its audience feel completely safe, reminding us that the wild, no matter how controlled we think it is, always has the final say. Uncaged is more than a monster movie, it's a reflection of human nature at its rawest. It's about what happens when fear strips away civilization and forces people to confront the primal instincts buried deep within. It's about survival, responsibility, and the price of crossing boundaries that were never meant to be crossed. Every scream, every shadow, and every heartbeat in this movie serves a purpose: to remind us that the most terrifying thing isn't always what's hunting us, but what we become when we're hunted. In the end, Uncaged stands as a haunting, emotional, and thrilling exploration of fear in its purest form. It combines visual beauty with psychological depth, action with meaning, and horror with humanity. It's a story of survival, of facing monsters both real and metaphorical, and of understanding that some cages should never be broken.